Every October is the perfect excuse for me to revisit some of my favorite spooky horror games. It's like this ritual of mine of replaying a bunch of classics to really get me in the Halloween spirit. And over time, the more I spend playing them, they start to become almost cozy. But why is that? Horror games that were designed to make the player feel uncomfortable switch at some point to pretty much feel the opposite. Sure, you could say it's the overfamiliarity mixed with nostalgia to some degree, but I think it goes deeper than that. You know, I think it ties into the very design of horror games themselves. The way they're built to evoke fear, but also how those same elements can create a sense of comfort over time. A lot of survival horror games pull off their scares so effectively by using the juxtaposition of fear and relief. The easiest example is that time in Resident Evil where you just about managed to make it to the safe room with your health at danger after getting mauled by the homeowner's dogs. This back and forth between fear and relief can feel cozy because after moments of stress, our minds are naturally craving a bit of downtime. Eventually, the familiarity of these spaces makes them feel like a home within the game world, especially in these older games where there were just no autosaves. Like, you would spend so much time in these save rooms sorting out your inventory, planning where to go next, and saving, obviously. For a lot of people, the music holds so much value in these games. Hearing those soundtracks again can bring a sense of ease, reminding players of the enjoyment they felt during their first playthroughs, making the experience cozier. The music is one of the most important parts in horror games. It's what sets the tone in a lot of pivotal moments, and it plays a fundamental role in creating the atmosphere of the game. Silent Hill 2 does this so well during its cutscenes. It gives them that extra layer of mystery. The music often has slow, haunting melodies that blend with the environment. These tunes can be eerie but are also strangely soothing. Over time, players can develop positive associations with these tracks, creating a sense of coziness through repetition. As we spend more time with horror games, something interesting happens. The fear that once gripped us begins to fade and a sense of mastery takes its place. Instead of dreading what's around the corner, we start to anticipate it, and that changes everything. In games that focus on combat or survival, the tension of facing monsters heads on turns into a satisfying challenge. The first time you encounter a creature, it can be terrifying, but once you've learned its patterns and weaknesses, there's something rewarding about taking it down with confidence. What was once a moment of sheer panic becomes an almost comforting routine. Even in games where the emphasis isn't on combat like Alien Isolation or Outlast, the same thing happens. At first, sneaking past enemies like the Xenomorph or the hulking variants in Outlast is nerve-wracking. Your heart races and every footstep you take feels like a gamble, but as you become more experienced, you start to feel in control. You know the hiding spots, the escape routes, and the exact moments to move without getting caught. It's no longer just about surviving, it's about mastering the environment. That sense of knowing what to expect and how to handle it is where the coziness comes from. The fear doesn't disappear entirely, but it becomes a familiar part of the experience, making each playthrough more enjoyable than the last. Of course, it's not just about the purely terrifying games. There's something incredibly cozy about playing games that lean into spooky themes without going all in on the fear factor. Take the Castlevania series for example. It's got that gothic atmosphere, creepy monsters, and dark environments, but it's more about the adventure and exploration, which gives it a nice balance. It's the kind of game where you can feel immersed in a haunted world without constantly being on edge. Presentation in these games is an easy 10 out of 10. Castlevania 4 in particular has this dark, sinister intro with the slow crawling text and chilling background music, almost as if the game is daring you to take on the challenge. Then there's games that are more light-hearted in their approach to horror, like Luigi's Mansion. Sure, it's got ghosts and eerie mansions, but it's also charming and fun. It's the perfect spooky experience that can still get you in the Halloween spirit without being too intense. The gameplay is comforting, and it's the kind of game that reminds you that not all horror has to be about scares. It can be cozy too. Growing up, I used to love watching Halloween themed movies like Monster House and Coraline. I even played the game adaptations of those movies, and while I absolutely ripped them to pieces for their flaws, I can't help but still have a soft spot for them. There's something about revisiting those childhood games that brings back memories of watching those movies for the first time. They're not the best games for sure, but they tap into that nostalgia for me, when horror wasn't just about being scared, but about having fun with a bit of a spooky edge. So at the end of the day, I guess it's that balance between fear and comfort that keeps me coming back to these games year after year. The atmospheric music, Familiar gameplay mechanics and gradual mastery create this weirdly perfect mix, and maybe that's what makes them so timeless, especially during the Halloween season. But I'd love to hear what you all think. Do you have any horror games that give you that cozy vibe, or is it just me? Either way, with that being said, thanks for watching. Bye guys.